All right, good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Faye D'Souza. This is Live with Faye. We have been trying for now 48 hours to get someone from the BJP to talk to us, anyone from the BJP actually. We really went through the entire roster to talk to us about the incident in Lakhimpur Kheri and all of the things that were being said around it. But I must tell you very clearly that there seems to be a clear effort none of the national spokespersons to comment on this issue at all. They've all turned us down now. And the few people who are commenting on it, who are local sort of BJP Uttar Pradesh people, are on the television channel. So we haven't been able to get anyone from the BJP to question, because ideally that's the job. The job is to question those in power about what has happened. Now, to give you a quick recap, you know what happened in Lakhimpur Kheri. There was an accusation that a cavalcade of SUVs drove into a group of farmers, killing at least 4 people, after which within the mainstream media and within the ruling BJP in Uttar Pradesh, there were stories about how the farmers had actually attacked the cars. They had sticks, they had stones, they had broken the windshield, they had compromised the driver's visibility, and in an attempt to escape from them, people got hurt. But now there is a video that has come out as of last night and early this morning. The video shows very carefully, it's a very distressing video, it shows very clearly that these farmers were just walking down the street and the car hit them from behind, throwing a few of them in the air, including what appears to be a fairly elderly gentleman, and then proceeds to plow through the rest of the crowd without slowing down in any way, followed by a second SUV that doesn't slow down either. Now, this is damning evidence. It appears from the visual that you can see the windscreen is intact. The visibility is not in any way impaired for the driver in question, but you cannot see whether or not the minister's son is in the car, because that is not visible in that video. The minister has denied quite clearly that his son was not present at the incident. I have 2 people joining me right now to talk about the implications of all of this. Mr. Sharat Pradhan, who is my go-to voice when it comes to Uttar Pradesh, a very senior journalist, and Ms. Saba Naqvi, who is also a senior journalist joining us out of Delhi. I thank both of you for giving us your time. Mr. Pradhan, you first. Unfortunately, we always speak under these circumstances, when either the Uttar Pradesh police is exercising its power as it shouldn't. But here in this case, that video now is going to become very difficult to deny. What is the state of affairs in Lucknow where you live? Are people angry? Are people reacting to this video? What's happening?
Well, people are angry, but they don't, the anger is not manifested on the streets. Unfortunately, there is no civil society kind of thing here, which really takes up these issues, which is unfortunate. And as far as the political parties are concerned, opposition parties, most of them do not seem to be really rising to the occasion. It's fine that the Yogi government has ensured that they are not able to come out of their homes. Yesterday only, they were kind of put under house arrest. But still, Priyanka managed to sneak out of that house arrest, and she managed to slip out and get into a vehicle after walking a kilometer. And then she was eventually, they intercepted her about 50 kilometers from Lucknow, which is where they have now, since yesterday, they've officially declared that she's under arrest. Earlier, it seemed that she was only taken into custody.
Yes.
But now there is no reason why even today they're not allowing her to go there, because when the funerals have taken place, the last post-mortem, which had to be done yet again, has also been done. But the government is adamant, because they come out, and then the problem with this government is that they are too despotic, and they won't allow any democratic protest is just not welcome. So that is one reason also why the civil society, the student community, and others who are feeling who are charged, but they cannot do anything, because even showing black flags is not permitted. That's the tragedy.
It's a really odd thing to hear so close to an election, that nothing democratic is being allowed in the state. But just to update our viewers, this is where we are as far as politicians from opposition parties are concerned. Priyanka Gandhi was kept in detention for 24 hours in a state guest house. She has now been placed under arrest, along with Uttar Pradesh Congress Chief Ajay Kumar Lalu and Member of Parliament Dipendra Huda, all three of them have been arrested under sections of the CRPC to prevent any crime from happening. But they're now officially under arrest. Chhattisgarh Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel was seen today sitting on the floor of Lucknow airport because he was not allowed to exit the airport. It was, it was a visual unlike anything I have seen before. Uttar Pradesh government has said very clearly that no leader of any political party will be allowed to visit Lakhimpur Kheri district. They have denied permission to Baghel, to Punjab Chief Minister Chani, to Punjab Deputy Chief Minister, Samajwadi Party Chief Akhilesh Yadav, Bahujan Samajwadi leader Satish Chandra Mishra, and Beam Army Chief Chandrasekhar Azad all have been stopped from entering this district. Taking this question to Ms. Naqvi, it seems and it sounds undemocratic, like Mr. Pradhan quite rightly said, but how can this be happening? I mean, Uttar Pradesh is still part of India. The last I checked, we are a democratic country. The laws are the same across the board. How can it be that no one can enter a district, no one can protest, no one can say anything in Uttar Pradesh?
So, Faye, Kashmir is also, we see Kashmir as part of India. I say this with complete consideration because my family is from UP. I know UP very well, and I have covered Kashmir. Some years ago, a man was tied to a jeep as a protest thing. A vehicle was used, and because they said they were being stoned by protesters in Kashmir, and a certain section of the media said, great thing, great. They didn't look at the human rights violation. An ordinary citizen was tied to a jeep to prevent people from pelting. A vehicle such as a jeep was used symbolically. When I saw the footage today, which was even more bloody because here they actually ran over people who were walking from their back. I thought of Kashmir, even the fact that all the opposition has been placed under arrest. I'm not saying UP has become exactly like Kashmir. Kashmir has a very distinct story, very distinct history, very distinct problems. But this is the same kind of attitude. And it's once you do away with democratic rights in the name of what you call nationalism, and it's your way or no other way, then your tendency to do so elsewhere, you think you have impunity. There's a government at the center. There's a government at the state, and this is a very, very important, the most populous state that sends the maximum number of members of parliament. And there's an election, and the Prime Minister was there today. Not a word about farmers being crushed. There's another point I'd like to make. This region where this incident happened, the Terai region, is full of Sikh farmers. Okay, it's a sort of, there's Western UP where the farm protests have had a lot of traction, and the population of the Terai region also includes a lot of Sikh farmers. The remarks that the Union Minister for Home, who was recently inducted into the Union Cabinet because they wanted a strong Brahmin face, the remarks that he made in that region a week ago, when he suggested that he can get rid of the crowd within 2 minutes. And he also suggested that terrorists and Khalistanis were there. It was seen as profiling of an entire community for that region. So it was seen, it's a very, very dangerous game that's being played. At the heart, of course, something has gone out of hand, but let's also not forget that the farm protest began on November 25, when the farmers came to Delhi. This is all part of this is one area in which the government is not willing to retract. And from the very beginning, there are some interesting things happening simultaneously. If you notice, if you give me 5 minutes, I'll just elaborate on the farm protest. So the way the Bharatiya Janata Party calculates, the epicenter, the state where the farm protests have the greatest traction is Punjab, where every village, every family in rural Punjab has sent people to be part of the 3 protest sites around Delhi. But the BJP does not have many stakes in Punjab electorally. They know that. So the Punjab is only useful to talk of border, state, threat, nationalism, anti-nationalism for them. And they're playing a very dangerous game with a state where there is no real Khalistan movement and all. That's all part of old history. By using that rhetoric, it has always been irresponsible, but they have done so. Haryana, which is the other state which is impacted, has elections after the next Lok Sabha elections. So in Haryana, they have been experimenting with sheer violence against the farm protests. There was an IAS officer who was caught on camera telling policemen to break the heads of the protesters. On the date that the incident took place in UP, the Chief Minister of Haryana was heard telling people, his own party workers, that they should take up sticks. Briefly, that thing is out there, and fix the farm workers. And later on, his media, and that if they go to jail, nothing matters because then history will reward them, so on and so forth. They're trying the hard line in Haryana because they expect to politically eventually play a card. Every state has different demographics. In Haryana, they want to play Jat versus non-Jat because Jats are at the forefront of the elections and of the protests, and the elections are some distance away. So they're trying that. In UP is a collection of many, many regions and many, many states. It's Western UP which is impacted. And there too, there are certain castes and communities which are at the forefront of the protests. The BJP always has a social engineering map in its hands. It's not just about Muslims, it's also caste alignments within Hindu society. So all of that. So they hope to play all that. So they have always believed. Now, they have always believed that they could manage it in UP. Can they do so now? This has gone a bit out of control. But if you look at the kind of remarks that are coming out of BJP leaders for a while about the farm protest, and then the remarks that are made by this new MOS home, Mr. Mishra, he's referred to as Teni in the state, and he's talking about people in the region to calling them Khalistanis and terrorists, and that's why it's important to say they're Sikhs.
So you believe this, Naqvi? You believe that sentiment in Uttar Pradesh will change because it was largely Hindutva, Ram Temple, anti-Muslim, the campaign the BJP was heading towards. But do you think that this will be a turning point in some way? Because we've had some people refer to this as a Jallianwala Bagh type incident. Is that something you agree with?
I believe UP is not as compact and small as Punjab and Haryana. It's too spread out. There are too many resources that the BJP has. And the opposition is also compromised.
Yes.
The BSP is compromised. Akhilesh too, I mean, Akhilesh is, at least all the defectors from other parties are going there. So people do believe that the Samajwadi Party is the main opposition. But UP is too large. Even agricultural patterns change within UP. Farm issues. Yet, will this appear that the state is killing those who till the land? Of course, it worries the BJP because flashback to an incident that happened in Madhya Pradesh in 2017, when Shivraj Singh Chauhan was the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh. There was police firing in Mandsaur. Those farmers were agitating against loan waiver. They wanted all that. 6 farmers were killed. And a year later, Shivraj did lose the election to the Congress. And that was, even the BJP agreed that was one of the factors. Never mind that the Congress managed to lose the state again. So, but again, Madhya Pradesh is not Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, there will be multiplicity of elements. There'll also be state, look at the state, look, the chief election commissioner who has been appointed was a right hand of the Adityanath Yogi. Let's say, have it all in the open.
Let me just bring in Mr. Pradhan and then I'll come back to this. This is a very important point. Mr. Pradhan, the really bad, and let's be honest, I mean, they can buy as many front pages of as many newspapers as they want, but the handling of COVID was bad in Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely.
Bodies floating in the Ganga, shallow graves on the banks of the river, not enough oxygen in any of the cities, really badly handled healthcare. On the heels of that, just as Uttar Pradesh was recovering from that, there was the incident which you pointed out, of a businessman being beaten to death by the police for no reason whatsoever, because the police have just turned into gundas themselves in Uttar Pradesh. And now this incident. So it's just been one thing after the other. Do you think that this will add up to something in the upcoming elections? Is there a sentiment that this will build to?
I think there is reason for people to react. And, this happened, this incident that I quoted and which you cited just now, it happened in no other place than the Chief Minister's home district, Gorakhpur. And the Chief Minister claims that he has ushered some kind of a Ram Rajya here. And this is the kind of Ram Rajya, that man, and that fellow has still not been arrested. The inspector who who carried out that operation. And the other chaps, and the whole focus at the moment of the administration or the police is on how to save that man, because he happens to enjoy the patronage of the top man. And he is a known extortionist. He goes out every evening compelling people to blackmailing people to shell out money, and he has this is his general reputation. And there's a lot of outrage in Gorakhpur, but voices are not heard. That is the whole problem. You don't see demonstrations taking place. You don't see the civil society rising up in arms. And this happened only 6 days back. And now this incident in Lakhimpur. Now Lakhimpur, when you allow people to turn insolent, it is only because of the arrogance of power. And you have displayed it amply, not once, twice, n number of times. Okay, ye hamara aadmi hai, so nothing happens to him.
So you believe, Mr. Pradhan, you have enough, forgive me for interrupting you, you have enough reason to believe that this was arrogance, this was wanton, arrogant behavior, it was not an accident, it's not the driver losing control of the car.
Certainly not. Absolutely. You know, the way that this fellow, this Minister of State for Home, this guy, Ajay Mishra, and Saba already pointed out why he was inducted to the cabinet as a Brahmin face. And this guy had been kind of threatening the local people, the farmers, and telling them that मैं तो 2 दिन में ठीक, 2 मिनट में ठीक कर दूंगा. And there is a video which was going viral today showing him driving down that place and with his thumbs down, showing to the farmers, your thumbs down. So, this is the kind of things they're doing. And then the son, absolutely insolent. He thought, my father is the Minister of State for Home of the country. So who the hell can do anything to me? That is the approach which I see here day in and out. The BJP wallahs have turned so intolerant. They just want to, and thanks to the mainstream media, the manner in which they are eating out of their palm. The leading newspapers of the country, no one there was a case of one newspaper, a national daily edition from Lucknow edition. He wrote about the potholes on a road, he wrote the 23-kilometer ring road in Lucknow has 446 potholes. The editor was questioned for that. Why did you write this story? Why are you writing on this? So I'm surprised. He had the gumption to tell them that if we don't even write this, then what the hell are we bringing out the paper for? Are we only going to publish press notes? This is the reality.
Which paper is this? This one story?
This is Nambara Times.
Okay.
And one story widely appreciated by everyone because people say, and the Chief Minister announces that Pradesh mein gadda mukt sadkein hain. So, they are getting away with it because the media is bombarding you with lies. Because media is getting tons of money for that. And when they feel, this is a typical RSS strategy, Saba would bear with me, that to, bombard so much lies that you yourself start doubting your truth.
Yeah.
And they are succeeding in that. Like when the Prime Minister said that nobody died of shortage of oxygen. And that became the buzzword. And the Chief Minister then had the cheek to declare formally that anybody who says there is shortage of, that some people died of shortage of oxygen, book them under NSA. This was an open threat to journalists.
I just want to point out here to our audience that apparently the Uttar Pradesh government has spent upwards of 160 crore rupees on advertisements in news media. Remember, news media specifically. And Network 18 was the biggest beneficiary. Network 18 owns IBN. IBN is the channel that put out government sources yesterday saying that the farmers, in fact, had attacked the cars and not the other way around. So this goes to show you that the media will always serve the hand that feeds it.
You are not just, it is not 160 crores. 160 crores is just one part of it. In the supplementary budget, which came in last month, which is only for the remaining 5-6 months, you know what was the allocation for publicity? 500 crores.
My God.
This is, they get away with it. So, I don't see any newspaper. These days, newspapers in Lucknow are full of only Sarkari press releases. And not a word, only those. Siddharth Vadrajan is still facing the music. He had to move to the Supreme Court. Then I got a lawyer here to save him to eventually come. Then the Supreme Court reverted it to High Court. Otherwise, he would have been arrested. His reporters simply because they wrote that the mosque was demolished in Barabanki.
This is effectively what has happened, Mr. Pradhan. Those journalists who didn't want to sing the praises of government are now call themselves independent journalists and function out of YouTube or out of the
Oh, that's great.
Great. I admire all of them, including Faye.
Yeah.
But here's the question, and since we're all journalists, it's an important question to ask. Do you believe this government has, not just nationally, but also specifically in Uttar Pradesh and many other states, managed to sanitize the media to its liking? Because whether we like to accept it or not, independent media functioning on YouTube and the internet has a certain reach, but mainstream, the front page of the Indian Express, for example, front page of the Times of India, the front page of the Dainik Jagran, has tremendous reach. Is this managing to turn lies into truth? Are people believing it, Mr.?
That's what I was saying. That perhaps Indian Express is the only paper here, the edition here, which still is doing real journalism. The rest of the papers,
Indian Express took responsibility for a front page ad in which they had put a picture.
I know. It was that went to all newspapers. But Indian Express was the one which got highlighted. But I tell you, considering the kind of news that you see in the newspapers here, Indian Express still appears to be one which is still doing journalism. The rest of the papers, I don't read most of the newspapers. I get all the newspapers, but I don't read most of them because it's meaningless. It is only loaded with the Sarkar. And let me tell you, just 3 days back, I was talking to a senior government official in the Yogi coterie. And he said, don't you think it's becoming too much? He said, I share this view. I can't say it officially, but yes, it is becoming too much.
Mr. Naqvi, do you believe that the sanitization of the media has been successful for the BJP? So in spite of all of the things we've listed out that have happened in Uttar Pradesh over the last 2 years, that the government has a pretty decent chance of convincing its people that this is a Ram Rajya.
It's not that simple. People end up voting for somebody who they think is likely to win. There are a lot of inducements given. I mean, especially when you cover BJP, they have it down to every booth. The other thing is about the media. I'd just like to intervene and say the Hindi media is what counts in Uttar Pradesh. The English media impact is very, very little. So what the Hindi papers are saying, it's us who read them. They really don't. When I because of TV visibility, if I travel South India, people recognize me. I've got family all over UP. I have an ancestral village. Nobody recognizes me in UP because they're all watching Hindi TV. And Sharat knows that.
Very true.
That airport recognition happens in Bangalore, Chennai, Bombay even. It does not happen when I'm arriving in Lucknow. That airport recognition. So I'm being very honest.
So Hindi papers have a tremendous...
Hindi media counts. More than anything, it's the new media that counts. It is actually, you're belittling yourself because, it's what is seen on the device. Whoever gets onto the device in Hindi, WhatsApp, YouTube, this is what is counting. That's why the BJP also uses it for propaganda. But a counter narrative is also created. Actually, newspaper reading habit is going down, so let's accept that. It's all new media. Even those who end up reading an Indian Express story will read it because they see it online. The young generation is not reading any papers, So I also happen to be a visiting professor in a media school. Let me tell you that the media students are not reading papers except online. And you tell them read a paper, they don't read it. And this is
This happened to me as well. I had to cancel a class because nobody in the journalism class had read the paper that morning.
Exactly. So this is a fact. So new media is very important, Faye. And certainly Hindi has an advantage over here when you talk about the Hindi belt. You already have counter narratives happening in the YouTube section in Hindi. You have journalists who are out there who are going to give you a counter story in Hindi media. You know, they're traveling, they're giving it to you from the field, they're doing
And
it.
they're
And
taking
they
all the
have a
risk.
huge,
They're
they're
taking
taking a
all the
risk.
risk. Yeah.
They have a huge viewership. Hindi viewership immediately escalates into lakhs, you know, and UP is very much a Hindi, UP, Bihar. It really, the English audience recognition, everything, byline is very, very minimal. So I'll say this, but what's happening yet they bother to file FIRs against the wire. Why do they do
Yeah.
that? They have bothered to file FIRs against an individual such as me. They have bothered to file FIR against a scroll. So
Yeah.
obviously, somewhere down the line, there is also another national narrative buzz that's created, which bothers them, you know. So,
Yeah,
and all of this has come out of UP. It's not happening out of Delhi, by the way, because
yeah.
I've checked up the lineage of certain things. I've covered the BJP it's all coming out of UP. You know?
Absolutely. You know, there was a, you would remember the case of a journalist who had who put up a video showing roti and salt being served as midday meal. That fellow was put behind bars.
Yeah,
And it took 4 months to get him bailed out. Then when I was one of his, I took his bail because they were not finding another person to take his, they needed two persons. So, but this kind of a thing is happening, and they openly threat.
Also, Mr. Pradhan, it is exactly a year today that Siddiqui Kapil has been in jail for a year.
They are very important. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine.
And have you seen the charge sheet? It's amazing kind of travesty of everything. If we hold
despite everything, it's been 1 year and the fellow is still behind. It's, you know, media is under complete. Did you see? There's another WhatsApp that was that went viral last night. It's about is claiming that the New York Times has written a singing pains for Narendra Modi and describing him as the top. Did you see that? Eventually, NYT has disowned it.
Yeah.
But the Bhakts, the Modi Bhakts are busy. They're going to town.
Let me ask my last question, which is this. Mr. Pradhan, what do you think Yogi Adityanath's strategy is going to be now? Because he has to recover from this while going into a campaign for an election.
I think the kind of person that he is, he believes in aggression, and he believes in, again, as I said, bombarding with lies. And he has been doing it, succeeded so far. So I'm sure as soon as the heat that is currently visible, once it goes, Yogi Adityanath is going to be back to his usual self, trying to impress upon people that they were being unnecessarily targeted. Political parties, he'll blame it on political parties and the media. This, which is what he has done in the past and succeeded. But I doubt if he's going to succeed eventually in the final count, because ultimately there will be people that people have started questioning. Even as I pointed out, even some of the Bhakts have started finding it a bit nauseating. So but as far as he's concerned, I don't think this will bring any change in him, because he's a different sort. He believes in bulldozing his way, and hope, because he comes as a head of a Matadhish of a temple trust. He is not used to dissent. He's not used to tolerating any kind of anything which doesn't go with his line of thinking. So I don't think in these 4.5 years have changed him a bit.
Ms. Naqvi, do you believe that Mr. Yogi Adityanath stands a chance to be re-elected as Chief Minister?
Yeah, so of course he does. I mean, there was a 10% vote gap between the SP and the BJP, but he was not elected. He was selected, right? He's not yet won an election. One important point, if you're asking a political analysis, is that the team which won UP very well was Amit Shah's team. The people there have gone. There is an interesting sub-story happening within the BJP. The Mr. Bansals and all the team which was in charge of the Lok Sabha campaigns, Amit Shah is no longer in the posters and visibility. So this is the Yogi Adityanath is somebody who even the central high command of the BJP cannot manage, cannot contain him. But UP, he did not promote an officer, sent a hand-picked officer. So it's his team right now. But what I believe will happen, because there will be a lot of Sangh Parivar input. Right now, So what will happen is that they will unleash, and this is not communal, a battle of multiple identities. Take Western UP, where the farm movement has a lot of traction. There will be all sorts of cards, Dalits, non-dominant OBCs, non-Yadav, non-Jat OBCs. There will be a lot of money that will flow. There will be a lot of cadre. It will be difficult for the opposition to function in areas. This is how the BJP has functioned in UP. But it's important to note that the Amit Shah team, which actually won Uttar Pradesh in 2014, of course, the Prime Minister was popular, and which was also there in 2019, those people are out. So there's an interesting interplay within the BJP.
Okay.
Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
Yogi Adityanath is hoping to thrive on this communal divide, which has been his strategy all through from the time that he got into politics.
Of course, that's a given. Besides that, I was trying to say it's more than just Hindu-Muslim. Even within Hindu society, in the first past the post system, you need so many votes, and you need the other votes to be cut. So they will have every mathematical equation will be on the board, because it's so crucial to retain UP. And even though the BJP does not have a good track record in assembly versus center, national. So it is a challenge. The circumstances have been horrible. Of course, he can be re-elected. It's very much, but anything can happen.
But whether he may get the party elected, but whether he'll become CM or not is difficult to say, because I doubt if somebody like Narendra Modi is going to tolerate his insolent behavior that has been visible over the past, particularly with reference to what...
He has so far. There was an attempt, we know, to make
that
change, but it was not
successful. Sharat, if he wins and he's not made chief minister, he will burn the place down. Anyway, but we'll see.
Let's see.
And then he'll go off to his Gorakhnath. That's why they're scared of him, yeah? If he gets
well, it's 9 o'clock. We're going to leave it there. I know that Saba Naqvi has to be on another show right now.
I'm not on any show, Faye. I just need to eat my dinner. And let me be honest, I'm starving.
No, please go ahead. We thank you so much, both of you, for your time. It has been an extremely distressing news cycle over the last 48 hours. The visuals we are seeing are not nice. It's only Tuesday, and we are already exhausted by what we've had to deal with. Hopefully, there's justice that gets played out. Remember, while opposition party leaders are under arrest right now, the man who drove the car, the minister's son who is accused and now against him, he has not been arrested yet. So there is a need for a couple of things to happen. For the leaders of the state and the country to come out and speak to us about what is happening with farmers and why the farmers are being painted as our enemies. And also for arrests to be made on what has played out this Sunday. And as Saba Naqvi and the rest of us sit down to dinner tonight, let's all remember where our dinner comes from. It comes from our farmers who grow everything on that plate. And while we do that, and while we feed our children our dinner, let's remember that the farmer is the Annadata. The farmer is one half of this country. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. We cannot turn our eyes away from. Nobody wants to sit in Dharna for a whole year. Nobody's crazy. There must be a valid reason. And our farmers are not stupid. They have lawyers advising them. They have, experts advising them. If they are upset for the last 1 year, they must have a reason. Let us stop writing off our farmers as illiterate and people who don't understand their own business. They have a keen understanding of the business that they work in. And this is something we must respect them for. I'll leave you with that thought to remember that our farmers put our food on our plates. I thank you both for this conversation. News is up at 9 o'clock, guys. Thank you for watching. Good night.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Bye. Bye, Sharat. Bye.